Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. From a ban on cell phones in schools to the Nashville executive tap to run DOGE, there's lots to discuss. And I've got executive producer Whitney Pastorak and producer Daniel Sumstein here to break it all down with me. It's Friday, February 28th. I'm your host, Marie Cecil Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about.
Daniel, Marie, how's everybody feeling?
I feel great. You know why? Because February is almost over and January felt like an eternity. So February was quick. March is going to be incredible. I just know it.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring. I thought that I was going to make it through winter without getting sick, but I woke up this morning with a little bit of a cold, so I felt better, but we're going to power through.
We're still making you work.
Yeah.
He's just extra sexy on the podcast today. Well, it has been a short month, literally, and metaphysically, but it's also been a week. We learned that former Nashville-based healthcare executive Amy Gleason of Main Street Health has been tapped to be the administrator of DOGE. She's joining Brad Smith, also formerly of Nashville, who founded Main Street Health in the so-called Department of Governmental Efficiency. First and foremost, if anybody out there listening knows or worked with or went to church with or lived next door to either of those people, would you please email us at nashville@citycast.fm? We are insanely curious. I want to hear from you. So if you know or knew Amy Gleason or Brad Smith, who are now making fundamental changes in the way our country is structured, do please shoot us an email. Meanwhile, as DOGE continues to cut jobs and funding while potentially ignoring the Constitution, there's some bad news locally for President Trump. Marie?
Nashville International Airport will not be changing its name to Trump International Airport.
Oh, no.
Boo-hoo. Yeah, if you've been living under a rock recently, I'll catch you up. So there was a bill proposed by Rep. Todd Warner to change our beloved BNA's name to Trump International. However, that bill has been taken off notice this week in committee because they learned it would cost taxpayers $10 million to change the signage, rebranding, logos.
Kelly Pickler here. Welcome to Nashville. Remember that?
That's true. Oh my God. Yeah. All the country stars would have to say, hi, it's Trisha Yearwood. Welcome to Trump International. They would have to change.
What if they just had Trump on loop saying, welcome to my airport? Oh no.
Here, let me tell you where the rental car facility is. Oh no.
Oh gosh.
It's going to be the best airport in the world.
It's going to be the best. Oh my gosh.
It's huge.
It's a huge
airport.
But Warner said, don't worry, folks. He's going to do some more research now to see why it would cost that much money. Apparently, he believes that there should be a Trump International Airport in every state in our country. Do y'all think renaming our airport Trump International would help tourism in our town? Exactly. My thoughts. Exactly.
Okay.
My practical answer, honestly, I don't like the answer, but given how the last election and popular vote went, I think it actually would, as much as I hate that it would.
Oh, my chest just got so tight.
But wait, what if you're Canadian?
Yeah.
Like, will Canadians
These are some good points.
want to fly into Trump International? I don't think so. I think it would actually do real harm. And I know that the Naming and Designating Committee, which is the committee that this got pulled out of, is also thinking about changing our street names here in Nashville to various Republican heroes. Like, I have a feeling that John Lewis Way downtown is probably on the table. And I, again, don't know what happens to tourism if the Ryman Auditorium is suddenly located on Elon Musk Way. You know what I mean?
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
This just breaks my heart to spend taxpayer money on the renaming of these things when our education here is totally being overlooked in our public schools. So
Hey, Daniel, but what else are lawmakers doing that's probably not productive?
Yeah. So speaking of focusing on the wrong things, Tennessee lawmakers are back at it wrestling over hemp and cannabis laws like we're stuck in some 1960s Pineapple
Reefer
Express
madness.
type
Right.
type situation. A bunch of stories came out this week in the Tennessee Lookout and Nashville Banner about this. So basically, some lawmakers want tighter restrictions on retail sales because they're worried that high potency cannabis products are slipping through legal cracks. And a lot of the legal debate around THCA stems from the fact that in its raw form, it falls under the legal THC limit, which is like 0.3%. But once you heat it, it essentially bypasses that restriction and becomes a lot more potent.
Okay, so this is where you like this loses me. Like now we're talking about science. Do you imbibe? Can you explain this to me? I mean, you're from California.
Yeah.
It's basically that it's real pot, right?
It's, in my understanding, it has the potential to do a lot of the effects that real pot offers, but it's not like it's not like the same type of plant that real flower from California is. Does that make sense?
I've done some investigative journalism into this.
Oh, how brave.
And I personally, having gone to Appalachian State University, which at one point was High Times, like #1 university for weed or whatever, I personally don't think this stuff has the same effect as the stuff from California.
Same.
Personally. But I have friends who debate me on this.
So it may or may not have the juice, but it is a huge industry, right, Daniel?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this on the show. It's got the potential to really harm an industry that brings in an estimated 280 million to 560 million in yearly sales. And it also creates thousands of jobs. And everyone is also waiting on a lawsuit that should go to trial in June over whether the Tennessee Department of Agriculture can impose a rule that would effectively ban Delta-9 THC. And then meanwhile, we have someone like Afton Bain, who is pushing a pot for potholes bill to legalize cannabis and use the tax revenue for state highways. I personally feel like this is a genius idea, but with Tennessee's Republican supermajority, any big changes seem pretty unlikely for now. So, this ridiculous battle over a plant that helps people rages on, but alcohol is totally fine and everyone should just go get belligerently drunk down on Broadway. So
I know. The double standard of this is insane.
Always makes me feel better.
Yeah. At this point, I feel like Tennessee's just going to be one of the last states to ever legalize it, if ever.
Well, another thing the state legislature is trying to ban, cell phones in schools. Representative Rebecca Alexander, who's a Republican from way out yonder in Johnson City, she wants to let kids get back to being kids, she says. And according to News Channel 5, her proposal would leave a lot of the details about how to ban cell phones in schools up to the school districts. So that could include whether or not the student is still allowed to have the phone, in their jacket or in their backpack or something, so long as it stays on silent. Districts would also get to determine whatever the punishment structure would be. It also might apply to other forms of technology, potentially even including like an Apple Watch. They're also, though, hoping to carve out some medical exemptions in this because I think someone probably really wisely brought up, like, what if a kid is diabetic and needs to check their insulin levels on their phone? The problem is, though, what happens in emergencies, right? So a lot of these articles this week, including News Channel 5's, mentioned Antioch parents specifically and grandparents and other family members who were so relieved that their child had a cell phone when the Antioch high school shooting started. And we certainly have seen that not just here in Nashville, but nationwide, right? These just gut-wrenching, I think this might be the last time I'll ever talk to you, I love you messages from teenagers. What do we think, panel of experts?
I think it's heartbreaking that is the reason why we think kids should have cell phones in schools. Because I honestly think they shouldn't have I just don't think they should have school. I don't think that let the kids roam free. No, I just think that as a teacher. I taught for several years in New York. The phones are so distracting. And also, if some kid does have a new iPhone and another kid doesn't have a phone, I mean, it really can cause so many problems within the social aspects also. There were fights over phones. I mean, there's so much to them. And if the kids are there to learn, the biggest distraction these days can be these phones.
So wait, what did the kids you were teaching do with their phones during the school day?
This was
did the school
wild.
confiscate them?
No, in the Bronx. So the phones were not allowed to enter the school, which was a problem because a lot of these kids, they were high schoolers. The second they left school, they needed their phones to communicate with their families. So the local bodegas around this school in the Bronx would charge the students $1 a day to keep their phones at their establishments. And so then as soon as they were done with school, they would come and grab their phones. When I heard this, I could not believe what a brilliant business plan.
Genuinely great business plan.
Yeah.
Genius.
We don't have bodegas here. Would you leave it at your local BP station? No, I don't think so. But who knows?
I'm going to quit this job and just sit out front of schools with a box.
Brilliant business plan.
Hundreds of dollars a day, dude.
Yes, exactly.
No, tax-free too, by the way. Can't track that.
Straight cash.
And don't lose that box.
Y'all, real quick before we start this local news section, Joseph Webb has announced that he is stepping down as the CEO of Nashville General Hospital, the city's safety net medical center, according to the Tennessean. This story broke yesterday. It's following allegations of nepotism and bullying and an oversight committee's recommendation to oust him. There is a lot going on over at Nashville General, y'all. I recommend checking out the great series of stories that Stephen Elliott is doing in the Nashville Banner, and we will have a lot more details on that for you as they happen. Meanwhile, Marie.
Do y'all hear that?
Tick, tock, tick, tock.
Time is running out. That is what you hear for the Tennessee Performing Arts Center to reach an agreement with Metro to relocate to the beautiful new East Bank development.
Nashville's next great neighborhood.
So as we all know, this is prime riverfront real estate, right? Mm-hmm. But the Business Journal is reporting that they now have till the end of the year before the agreement with Metro expires.
Okay, so catch us up. Why is it that suddenly TPAC does not want to move to the East Bank?
Money.
Oh.
So from what I understand, in their building of this new state-of-the-art theater that I am super excited about, they have to take in many of the costs, especially some of the infrastructure costs. And what I understand also is that there's part of a bridge, a bike ramp type situation that's supposed to be included in.
Yes, on the pedestrian bridge. I do remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, they're supposed to help with redoing the way that all works.
Right.
So they can plop their building down right there.
And so that's folded into their budget. So at first it was supposed to be about $30 million, but now estimated costs are up to closer to $67 million that they need to incorporate into their budget. And that's a lot of money for TPAC to front. So now they're waiting. And again, from what I understand, maybe weighing other options, looking at different places to build this new state-of-the-art theater because they do have to leave their current home.
So this is one of the problems with the new stadium in Nashville's next great neighborhood, right? And we've talked about this before when we were talking about the budget. So it's great, large air quotes around the word great, that we're getting this new stadium, right? That's been paid for magically with taxpayer dollars. The problem is that Nashville is now on the hook to build that whole neighborhood, not literally the buildings, but like you said, Marie, the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the power. I mean, there's nothing there. So it makes sense to me that they were like, hey, TPAC, can you foot the bill to make sure that you have electricity in your building? And the other thing that I have noticed is that I think I read in that same article, Marie, that the state is giving TPAC a total of $500 million in order to make this move.
Thank you, Bill Lee. I've never said that.
That's great. Way to support the arts, Bill Lee.
True.
But what are they using that money for?
I don't know. I really don't know. So I'm really interested to see what happens because, again, as a theater goer and a lover of the Tennessee Performing Arts Center, I will remain focused on what ends up happening.
Speaking of the Cumberland River, though, Hey, great news. The Cumberland River Compact was supposed to get a $1 million grant from the Biden-Harris Inflation Reduction Act to plant trees through their program Root Nashville. Well, so now they're not getting it. According to the Tennessee Lookout, they got a letter from the USDA saying that the USDA Forest Service has determined that the award no longer effectuates agency priorities regarding, can anyone guess what I'm about to say here? Let's all say it all together. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because Root Nashville often focuses on areas that used to be historically redlined or that have higher poverty rates. So planting trees in those neighborhoods is too much DEI, according to the new Trump administration and DOGE previously mentioned. But of course, this isn't just hurting the Cumberland River Compact. It's hurting local tree farmers too, who were expecting that income. So if you want to help out, I guess the best way to do that might be to donate at cumberlandrivercompact.org.
That's a great idea because they have all these trees in theory that they've been growing for this project.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So let's maybe all get together and help them buy them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have $1 million. But speaking of Congressman John Rose, he's our congressional representative here in the Tennessee 6th District, wants to run for governor. My initial comment is LOL, but do any of you think that's a good idea?
My first thoughts was as long as he can bring his child, that there was a video that went viral with his kid making faces behind him and sticking his thumb. I was like, that is adorable.
Not his grandson. That's his son.
His child, yes.
Yeah. So this is our congressman since we got gerrymandered. None of us have ever seen him in person. None of us have ever met him. He's never here. He made his speech that he's going to run for governor in Williamson County, which he does not represent. So clearly we're chopped liver. Daniel, you're usually more even-keeled about these things than I am. What do you think?
I was on Reddit the other day, as I do, and I saw a thread on the Nashville subreddit talking about how difficult it is to make a living here. You know, you hear all the time how most natives are having to move outside of the city, and that's mostly because, like, wages have not caught up to the cost of living, and essentially, our elected officials and businesses seem pretty incapable or uninterested in addressing that very real issue. So when I look at it through that lens, I have my doubts that John Rose's policies will totally address this gap.
Well, I was just going to ask,
yes,
can you remind us when we vote for the governor? Is that next year?
Yeah, it's November of 2026. So we got one more year. The person who's in the mix we know and who, you know, I wouldn't bet against is good old Marsha Blackburn. Y'all are familiar with her?
Right.
Not quite sure why one would stop being a sitting United States senator to come back to Tennessee and be the governor. I feel like you could probably draw some conclusions around that if you tried hard about what that could possibly put her on a path to, assuming we ever have another federal election. But from congressman to governor, that seems fine. That could happen. I just don't think that John Rose has the juice, unlike our local fake weed.
Well, something I'm really excited to report on is that Nate Bargatze did a 3-part interview with our local TV station, Channel 4, Lydia Fielder. 3-part interview with Nate where he talked about how his dream is to bring a Universal Studio type theme park and production company to Nashville. Of course, calling it Nateland would be the theme park, but then Nateland Productions would produce comedy specials, movies, TV, and more. And the thing that caught my eye the most is he said that he wants to bring back the Screamin' Delta Demon, which was an amazing ride at Opryland. So if he does that, I mean, my nostalgic little heart will be so very happy.
You're all in. Marie brought this up this morning. Marie's in charge of our Nate Bargatze beat. But, you know, Marie's brought this up before and she put this story in the chat again this morning. And I was like, no, we already talked about that. She's like, no, wait, it's real.
Watch the interview. Some of it's out. I think more is to come. But the way Nate talks about Tennessee and his love for Nashville is so beautiful. This man has traveled all over, obviously. He's a superstar, but he has returned to Tennessee and he wants to support it. And specifically Nashville, which I think is so amazing. It's very Dolly Parton-esque, if you ask me.
Aw.
Yeah.
Nate Bargatze, the new Dolly Parton. Well, who else is coming back to Nashville, Marie?
Circling back in town is Sabrina Carpenter, which I got the alert today that she was coming to Nashville November 4th and 5th to perform at the Bridgestone. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I have deja vu, because she already came to Nashville with this short and sweet tour in October, but she announced more dates. So she's going back on the road again and is including Nashville, which Beyonce did not include Nashville with her new tour that she's doing this summer.
I have tickets to see her in Houston.
Oh, that'll be epic.
I have tickets to see her in Jersey.
Let's go.
Look at us.
Look at us. But Daniel, you had Sabrina Carpenter as your pick to win a Grammy that she, in fact, did not win.
Yeah, she should have, in my opinion. I mean, that song.
You love her.
I mean, I'm like a casual fan of her music, but that song just took over the summer, along with Brat. It was a Brat summer, but it was also very much a Sabrina summer. She's got some bangers for sure.
Well, I will make my Meemaw confession, which is that when she was here in October, I had no idea who she was. But the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special, all of a sudden, I'm madly in love with her, not just because of the espresso skit with Pedro Pascal and whatever, who, why won't he love me? Please, Pedro, if you hear this, move to Nashville. Austin's so played out, man. But she opened the show, right? That was the cold open, was Sabrina Carpenter standing next to Paul Simon to sing Homeward Bound. And I, of course, started sobbing, not because of Sabrina Carpenter, but because of Paul Simon. That's my Pavlovian response to Paul Simon. He appears in front of me and I weep. But I love the way she treated him with such respect. So I now have a lot of respect for her.
That short and sweet little singer.
Adorbs. All right. Well, other people who have been in town lately, the Lord Mayor of Belfast, Northern Ireland, has been here all week visiting Mayor Freddie O'Connell and other local luminaries. He's brought a Northern Irish delegation with him. And why, you may ask? It's because Belfast is one of our sister cities. Fun fact. I've been there. They also have pedal taverns and host a lot of hen parties, which is what they're called on that side of the pond. Bachelorette parties are known as hen parties. And a lot of people apparently go to Belfast to have their hen party and ride around in pedal taverns. So sisters, maybe even twins, if you were in charge of showing the Lord Mayor of Belfast and his friends a good time here in Nashville, remember, these people are Northern Irish, where would you take them?
Thunder from Down Under. No, definitely
Amazing.
For the recession special at Roberts.
Absolutely.
Classic.
I'd take him to climb Nashville.
Why?
We'd hit the top ropes, and I feel like there's probably some beautiful climbing in Northern Ireland, so they could get into that once they go back to their homeland.
All right, so we're taking him to a strip show and to the climbing gym.
Yep.
Do
Back
we
to
know
back.
Nashville or do we know Nashville?
Wow. I would take them to the Jefferson Street Sound Museum. And if you didn't see it in the Nashville scene this week, there was a really, really wonderful profile of Mr. Lorenzo, who runs that museum. And we put it in our Hey Nashville newsletter yesterday morning. Everybody should really go check that out. It's all about the history of music on Jefferson Street and in North Nashville. We've had Prof. Jenkins talking about that before. So it's really a different look at what, quote, Music City means. So I would take them there. And my answer wins.
Well, I mean, I guess I could also take him to the Frist Museum because they just launched a new exhibit called Farm to Table, Art, Food, and Identity in the Age of Impressionism.
Ooh.
Which I know may sound a little like a snooze fest, but trust me. Y'all, I went this past week and I just thought it was so beautifully curated. The first room starts with, obviously, you guessed it, farm out in the farmers, but beautiful paintings of this. And then it moves through the gallery and you go into paintings of people preparing the food. There's a very large painting of like a butchered cow, which when I saw this man turns to me, goes, I saw that when I was a child, exactly that on my father's farm in Tennessee. I was like, oh, thank you, sir, for that fun little insight. And then as you move through the gallery, then it shows the people who serve the food. And as a cater waiter, I really related to some of these people, the paintings serving trays of tea and whatever. And then the final room is paintings of people enjoying the food. And then you step into a gallery that says Harvest, and it's Tennessee artists. So It really does take you on a journey from, again, farm to table.
Right there in the name. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
I would like to go see that. Is that going to be up for a while?
Till May 4th.
Nice.
But something that's going to be a little bit longer is the Country Music Hall of Fame is launching American Currents next week.
Oh,
and
Marie.
The infamous cupcake dress from the Taylor Swift Eras Tour is going to be on display. This is a very big deal in the Swiftie world. This dress was in the documentary, the Disney documentary, and it's pretty historic that it's going to be debuting right here in Nashville. So I'm really excited to see that. That, I hear, is going to be on display for over a year.
Yeah, we got to go to that.
I know.
Do we? Do we got to go to that?
Oh, yes.
I'm a Swiftie.
Sorry.
You're outnumbered, Whitney.
That's all right. I'm suddenly obsessed with whether my dog's just been in the living room licking his leg incision. So I think it's probably time. Wally had another knee surgery, everybody. I know you were really invested in my dog, but I think it's time to wrap this up so I can make sure that he's not licking his stitches out.
Beautiful. That is a great way to end this amazing episode.
In a way, it's like America. America is currently trying to lick its stitches out.
That's true.
Let's all keep an eye on it.
That's right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the weather.
Have a good weekend, y'all.
See ya.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson. Our executive producer is Whitney Pasterek. Our producer is Daniel Sumstein. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury, and our theme music is by Prof Jenkins. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!